Some breaking news right now in a Kansas cold case. A new autopsy shows Alonzo Brooks.
Hey YouTube family, and welcome back. If you are new, welcome, welcome, welcome. We're our family over here. So what's up, sis? What's up, bro? What's up, cuz? Be sure to go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and join the family. So on today's episode, we'll be talking about 23-year-old Alonzo Brooks. Alonzo was the youngest of his siblings, which in my opinion, I feel like he was his mom's favorite. He had this beautiful spirit, this beautiful smile. He got along with everybody he came in contact with. He played football, and he was described as this rough, down, to earth football player. When he was on the field, he didn't play no games, but off the field, he was so quiet and so, peaceful and stuff like that. Alonzo and his family was originally from Topeka, Kansas, but they moved to Gardner, Kansas. After watching this documentary on Netflix, I'm sure some of you guys have seen it already, but it was very heartbreaking to see. Like, the whole time I was just devastated. My heart was pumping so fast because I'm like, what happened to Alonzo? Like, somebody knows something about Alonzo and what happened that night. So to get into this case, Alonzo decided to go to a party in Lacine County. Him and a few of his friends. They didn't know who party it was. They just knew that somebody was going off to the service, and it was just a thing to do, Somebody told them, hey, it's a party, and they wanted to go. So Alonzo decided to ride with his friend Justin to the party. Keep in mind that the party was about 47 miles away from their hometown in this predominantly white town. They described it when they pulled up. They had to drive down a super long driveway. Alonzo initiated, contact with everybody, asking everybody, hey, do you want a beer? Just trying to break the ice when they made it to the party. Now, it was a known fact that Alonzo was the only black male there, and there were plenty of racial slurs thrown back and forth. Alonzo did get upset about those, but his friends would break it up. They did say he wouldn't let that ruin his night, so he went on about his night as normal. Now, at some point at the party, they did say that Alonzo was talking to a white female, and apparently some of the people there didn't like it. At one point, a few of the friends that came from his hometown decided to go to another party. And so about 30-45 minutes in, they decided to call it a night and go to the other party. Well, his friend Justin did stay for a little while longer, but he wanted a cigarette. Alonzo didn't have any more cigarettes, so Justin decided to leave the party by himself and go get cigarettes. Now, that point, that was the first red flag. I'm like, okay, no. One, if Alonzo is the only black person at this party. Two, there's already been racial slurs. Why would you leave your friend there? Knowing that a small altercation just, went on, and you had to step in, or one of the friends had to step into that. My main question is, why would you leave him, even if it's going to get cigarettes? Anyway,
the proper way I think that should have been handled is, it's like a friend code that everybody got. When you go to a party with a group of friends, and at this point it's like nobody at this party knows each other from our group. Like, we the only ones here. We literally don't know no one else here. We only know our friends and who we came with. So that is the first no. That is the first red flag. I don't care what you was going to do. I don't care if you was going to pick your sister up. All friends that came together should leave together. So that was a major red flag that ended up being the worst decision Justin could have ever made. Now, Justin and all the other friends who Alonzo was with, they was all white. Alonzo was the only black guy at the party. Not only at the party, but even his friends. All his friends was white. But they was from Gardner, which was more of a diverse place, and they didn't see skin color. Like, they was all friends. They played football together. They was just cool, and that was never a problem with them. Now, this other place where this party took place, it was known to be a racial town and things like that. So, I mean, all of that is a red flag, and they didn't know where this party was. It was out in the middle of nowhere, so they didn't know what they was getting themselves into. But you know what we into once we're there, and you know that he's been called racial things. No matter if he would let that bother him or not, he done almost got into a fight because of this. All this done happened this night. On top of everybody here is drunk, everybody is smoking, and we know how tempers can fly at that point. So Justin decided to go get cigarettes and left Alonzo there, which was the worst thing he could have did. So he said at some point, like I said, they was out in the middle of nowhere. They didn't know their way there, so trying to find your way out on these dark back roads is kind of hard to do. So he said at some point he made a right when he should have made a left, and he got lost out in the middle of nowhere. And he said before he knew it, his car was stuck, and he had his car stuck in a gravel field. So at that point he had to call for help, and that's when he made a phone call to a guy at the party that he knew and said, hey, I'm stuck out in the middle of nowhere, give Lonzo a ride home for me. And that was the last time even Justin called to check on Lonzo. He just thought, hey, I made the phone call, this certain guy is going to give Lonzo a ride home. Now, he did say that he heard in the background that Lonzo was talking trash and giving him smack for getting lost and getting stuck out in the field, but he said that's who Lonzo was. It was all joking, but he was just giving him a hard time. But even that, I mean, I think the proper way that should have been handled is, even if you did go get stuck, we done already talked about he shouldn't have left him. So I think after you get unstuck, you go back and make sure you get Lonzo and get him home, because y'all all met up at Lonzo's house to go to this party. His mom seen him leave with you. He rode with you. It's your responsibility to make sure you get home.
And make sure that the person that you asked to give him a ride, that he's with them. Like, I get it, you know, they were young, I get it. You know, alcohol's involved, maybe they weren't thinking, but it really cost Alonzo his life. You know what I mean? Like, it's so crazy. So, the next morning, somebody called his mom and asked, was Alonzo there? And she was like, he should be. You know, she got up and went to his room and looked, and he wasn't there. So at this point, she's on the phone with whoever called, and she's telling them, hey, you know, no, he's not there. Y'all need to call and see where he is. So everybody's calling around, hey, have you seen it? All the friends are saying no, you know, well, we left, you know, 30 minutes early, you know, when we first got to the party. And, you know, Justin saying, well, no, you know, I asked so-and-so to give him a ride home, so let me call him. And that guy's response was, at some point, communication, you know, got lost. He ended up missing him at some point, so he didn't obviously give him a ride home. So at this point, his mom is frantic. She's like, I know my son would have came home. Something isn't right. He's a homebody. Like, you know, he would have came home. So she decided to go to the police department, and they told her that she has to wait, you know, 48 hours before they can do a missing person. And she was like, no, I know my son, you know, he would have came home. So one of his friends from back home decided to go to Lacine County and see, you know, what was going on. He wanted to get down there to see what he can find. So he ended up meeting up with Justin and the other friends down there, which they showed him where the party was, the long road they had to drive up and all that. So the friend went looking. He walked up the road, and he ended up just, you know, looking around, looking to see if he can see anything, if he can find anything that will show where Alonzo was. So walking across the street, he ended up finding one of Alonzo's boots and Alonzo's hat. On the other side of the road, he ended up finding, by the creek, he ended up finding another one of Alonzo's boots. And so that alone was like, okay, something really isn't right. Like, what's going on? Like, I know he wouldn't be out here, you know, without his boots, without his hat. One of his ankles, like 2 weeks prior to going to the party, he ended up messing up one of his ankles. So he would tie his boots like really tight and double his socks just to give it a little bit more support. So he knew he wouldn't have been just out there with no shoes on. At that point, they knew that something was going on. Something was wrong.
Something was going on. They knew that because Alonzo is missing. We have found his shoes and his hat on side of a road, pretty much in brush, like in the wooded parts of the road. So
like somebody just threw them there.
Yeah.
You know?
At this point, some guy that neither of the friends knew and nobody knew rolled up on a 4-wheeler and told them flat out, hey, you guys need to get out of here. So at that point, they already knew something bad had happened. And the friends wanted to push back and say, no, we're not going nowhere. We're looking for our friend. But Alonzo's best friend had already felt scared when they showed him the house. And when he got the vibe of the town, he said as soon as they got there, even before they found the boots, that he didn't feel safe there. So he wanted to just get out of there. So that's what they did. They pretty much loaded up and they got out of there. So they told Alonzo's mom this information, and they basically called the police and gave them all this information, and then that's when they started their full-on search for Alonzo.
Well, Alonzo's brother, his mom called his brother, and that Monday his brother and his wife loaded up and headed to the scene. They wanted to see what went on. They wanted to see where the party was. They wanted to see everything for themselves. So they did go. They drove to the house where the party was, looking through the windows, and his sister-in-law was basically saying the way this house looked, it looks so clean, like nothing had ever happened there. Like a party wasn't just thrown there the day before. So she was like, you know, that, you know, kind of spooked her, like, what's really going on? It was a creek next to the house. And then, you know, they walked around looking to see if they can see anything, and they didn't find anything. At that point, they went to talk to the sheriff, telling the sheriff, you know, everything that they found prior to what went on, and talking about Alonzo. And the sheriff told them, well, you know, kids, maybe he's just walking around. And the sister-in-law said she remembered telling him or asking him, who do you know would be walking around with no shoes on and it just rained?
Yeah.
Who does that?
Nobody.
In a town that he's not from.
And that is coming from a sheriff that works that area and is known for that area to have racial activities going on, and we're looking for a black man.
And it's crazy because even driving through the town, Alonzo's brother and his sister-in-law said they were getting like crazy stares from the people in the town. So they already knew what was going on. Well, not long after that, KBI ended up doing like an extensive search for Alonzo. After so long, the FBI got involved and they did this search. Well, his family was calling like every single day for updates because they wasn't updating them on anything. And it got to the point where they told them, hey, stop calling, let us call you, let us do our job, basically. And so all of this happened April 3rd or 4th. And they didn't let the family search until May 1st. So about 27 days went, you know, in between. They said they did 6 searches for Alonzo. They searched the creek. Yeah. They searched the area. They searched everywhere. They didn't find anything.
They had helicopters out there.
Helicopters, dogs.
It was explained that they did a real search. Like, they searched that area from front to back. The FBI got involved. So at this point, that was a good thing because they know, hey, we're not just dealing with the sheriffs that's from the racist town. We got the FBI involved. So right away, the FBI started investigating this as maybe he was a target of a hate crime. Right. Basically, he was the only white guy there. He was out of bounds. He shouldn't have been in that town. All his friends was white, but they was good people, but they left him there. So at this point, they basically investigated it as a hate crime. They investigated it from April 4th for like 27 days, all the way up till whenever
May 1st.
May 1st. And they would not let the family go out and search. They told them, no, we got it. Let us do our job. They had dive teams in the creek that ran along behind the house. They had people underwater, in the water, going both ways. They searched every piece of the land. They had helicopters out there. They really did a big, extensive search. But they came up with nothing.
Right.
So at some point, they did lie detector tests. They interviewed as many people as they could. But mind you, some people would not interview. Some people did lawyer up. Some people turned down a lie detector test. So that prompts his friends to be like, hey, if no one had nothing to do with this, why would some people even turn down a lie detector test? Why would some people ask for a lawyer right away? So that was all suspicious. But I mean, again, you don't have no evidence that foul play was involved. We still don't know what ALONZO is. So, I mean, you can't just say they had something to do. It's their right to lawyer up or not speak with the authorities. So, that's what they did. So, after coming up empty for 27 days, doing all this searching, they basically, I mean, they just pretty much wanted to close the case. So, then they gave the family permission to go out and search on their own. They basically said, hey, he's not out there. We done did our investigation. We come up with nothing. We don't even know what's... Basically, they didn't know nothing. So
didn't find anything, didn't know anything.
So they let the family go out and search on May 1st.
The family ended up getting, you know, people from their community, people that had heard the story and just wanted to help. At that point, they literally wanted to find anything. They knew that they probably wouldn't find ALONZO, but they wanted to find something so they would know, or, you know, get closure on what happened to ALONZO. So about 30 minutes into the search, somebody had found him. And it's crazy because they found his body like just laying in, you know, sticks and stuff in the creek. And I'm like, if the FBI, the KBI, you know, dive teams, dogs, all these people search for ALONZO, and they searched this creek, how did his body just end up in this creek? They
said they searched every inch of that creek, exactly where his body was found, laid there, all peaceful. They said they searched that exact spot. He was not there.
And even though it had rained, he said that the water had went down low enough that he could literally see the bottom and like move their feet and see stuff. So if he was there when they were searching, they would have found him
in that spot.
Which makes me think somebody placed him there for some reason. I just can't believe that this whole full-on search went on and they didn't find him. There's so much noise, you know, going on at the time. People saying, well, maybe he was put into a freezer, and held and then placed there, or maybe he was in somebody's trunk and then placed there. But his brother described him as, he still looked like himself.
He hadn't lost his color.
Yeah, he didn't lose his color or anything.
He said he looked at normal as if he was still alive, but they just knew he wasn't.
Right, because 27 days had passed. Another crazy thing is ALONZO had stuff in his pockets like paper and cards from a movie theater, even money in his pocket, and none of it had any damage to it. Like, you can still open the paper and read the paper, and for him to be found in a creek, how is that possible? You know?
Because at some point, some of the officers tried to say, well, maybe his body could have been stuck under brush, and once it rained, the creek levels filled up and he could have been pushed down, which that is possible, but it's not possible when some of the items that is found on him is literally paper and money and things like that, and it's not ruined. I mean, we all know if you put paper in water, what is it going to do?
Almost instantly.
It's ruined.
Almost instantly.
Like, and for him to be missing 27 days, there is absolutely no way he could have been underwater for 27 days and this paper and stuff be normal. Like, there's no way his lungs wouldn't be full of water for 27 days. And they did have a very experienced forensic guy that did the autopsy and things like that. And it was all really so weird because he didn't find no punctures of the body. He said his lungs, no bruises,
no broken bones.
His lungs wasn't full of water. So, I mean, he said, but with him being missing for so long, he had tissue and all that stuff that had been ruined. So he still could have drowned. But it was just so much. But he wasn't able to basically
determine his cause of death. He couldn't determine. It was undetermined. Which is so crazy to me. This case is really heartbreaking. It's really heartbreaking because somebody knows something and, you know, somebody is not saying, but everybody deserves, you know, justice. Alonzo deserves justice. Well, this documentary did prompt the FBI to take another look at Alonzo's case and to re-examine him. The case was reopened in 2020, and in 2021, after examining his body and everything again, the FBI did determine that Alonzo died from homicide.
Some breaking news right now in a Kansas cold case. A new autopsy shows Alonzo Brooks' death has been ruled a homicide. The FBI says Brooks went to a party in 2005 and never came home. Investigators say there was a fight at a different party nearby in Lacine, and many people left there and showed up at the one where Brooks was. Again, his body was found in a creek a month later in 2004. Brooks' death was profiled in Netflix's Unsolved Mysteries. If you know anything, please contact the FBI or the TIPS hotline. There is a $100,000 reward for the right information.
So they did rule it a homicide. And they do have a $100,000 reward for any tips that will lead to solving Alonzo's case. We will leave all of that information down below, the number to Crime Stoppers and all of that. If you know anything, please come forward. You can leave any tips anonymously. No one has to know who it is, but Alonzo definitely deserves justice. This boils my blood so bad.
Yeah, Brooke, 23-year-old Alonzo Brooks graduated from Topeka High and later moved to Gardner, Kansas. In 2004, he went to a party and was never seen alive again. His body was found in a creek and the coroner couldn't determine a cause of death. And now, 16 years later, the FBI is asking the public for help.
It defies reason to believe that Alonzo's death was a suicide or that he somehow accidentally tumbled into a relatively shallow creek in Linn County, leaving behind his boots and hat, all with no witnesses whatsoever.
Police searched for 23-year-old Alonzo Brooks in 2004 when he never returned home from a party. A month after his disappearance, they found his body in a creek, but it was so deteriorated the autopsy couldn't find a cause of death. Brooks was at a party of around 100 people, which Brooks only knew a few people and was only one of 3 black people at the party.
There are numerous reports from those who attended of fights breaking out during the party, sometimes described even as brawls. There are also reports of racist comments being made.
So bad. Do I believe it was a hate crime? Of course. Of course. We don't know what happened at that party. It's so many scenarios that could have went on. They could have seen the other friends gone and decided to harm him. They could have seen him, you know, talking to the lady at the party, and allegedly he had an altercation at that point because of a boyfriend or somebody that she maybe was talking to didn't like her talking to Alonzo. So I mean, it's so many scenarios that could, you know, go on that just run through my mind. But just watching it, I am completely heartbroken, and I definitely hope somebody come forward. Please come forward, so they can get justice and get some peace and gain some understanding about what happened to Alonzo. If you guys like our true crime series, Make sure you hit that subscribe button and join the family. We definitely have more to come. We love you guys as always, and we will see y'all in the next one.